What's up, everybody? Welcome to the MSP Water Cooler. I am your host, Jonathan Schofield. My friends call me Scofie, co-hosted with the one and only Robert Gillette of MSP Growth OS. And today is particularly special because we brought in some big marketing guns. Before we introduce you, Tim, we got you on deck here.
Cool.
Admission, I do not consider myself a marketing expert per se. However, due to being a business owner and being in business development and sales and channel for the majority of my career, I've had to learn some stuff. And I'd like to think I know a thing or two, but I wouldn't dare venture into a full on discourse on this topic without bringing in someone like Tim. So Tim, we're so glad you are here with us. Robert, how do you feel about marketing high level before we kind of kick this off, introduce Tim and do the things?
Confused and jealous. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm one of those guys where it's, again, I made my money in sales. And so I feel like marketing at times baffles me and is hard. It feels a little bit frustrating because there's just so much about it I don't know and understand. And the goals are often very different between sales and marketing. Like what is a success looks very different for the two. And so it's definitely one of those things I've struggled with in my career.
Excellent. Yeah, I would agree. Also, because we don't have a producer today, I'm doing too many things at once. And we've got a couple special guests backstage. And I want to make sure that they knew. John, I see you backstage. Paul, I see you backstage. The way this works, if you've never been to the MSP Water Cooler before, this is all about you. If you're watching this and you're an IT business owner, you're a business development, sales rep, account executive, sales manager, chief revenue officer, director of marketing, you are concerned with growth in your IT services business. The MSP Water Cooler is not all about how awesome Robert and Scofie are, though Robert is awesome. It's about what challenges you're facing to grow your IT MSP business and bringing the tough questions and scenarios related to all of these topics to us to unpack. Bonus points if you can stump us, if you can make us sweat, if you can give us something particularly challenging. I just admitted to you, I don't know everything about marketing, so it won't be hard to make me sweat probably. But I want this to be meaningful and valuable. So 2 ways that you can get your questions answered today. Number 1, drop it in the comments. Paul from NetV Pro has already warmed the hopper up by dropping one in the chat, which we'll drag on screen, and him as well. The second way is so you can comment on LinkedIn or YouTube and let us know your question. We'll bring it up if we have time. We'll discuss it. The second way, and even better, if you're feeling brave, there is a StreamYard link that I'm dropping in the comments on LinkedIn right now, where you can join us backstage, just like Paul and John have done. And we'll actually bring you on screen with us to ask your question live and maybe give a little context. We'll give you about 30 to 90 seconds to kind of share what's on your mind. And then we'll take you off screen. And then Robert and I and our special guest will discuss it. So while I'm introducing Tim and Tim's introducing himself, be thinking of what you want us to talk about today. Drop it in the comments. Join us via the StreamYard link, and let's have some fun for the next 45 minutes or so. Tim, so glad you're here. Tim Fitzpatrick, Rialto Marketing. How are you feeling today?
I'm great, man. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to dig into this, man. I can talk about marketing all day. So let's help some folks get unstuck.
Love it. So before we get started, for our viewers' benefit, some who may know Tim, some who may not, share us briefly the too long don't read version of who is Tim, where do you come from, what makes you tick, and your favorite flavor of ice cream.
So really quickly, I got started in my professional career in wholesale distribution. I was selling consumer electronics, home theater equipment. Grew that business 60% a year for 9 years. We sold it. Got out of that. I was in residential real estate for a while. Hated it. Felt like I was banging my head against a wall every day. Then I shifted gears and I got involved in marketing, and I've been doing that ever since. And today what I'm focused on is helping MSPs build a marketing engine that turns what's often these random acts of marketing into into sustainable, predictable revenue growth. And we do that by focusing on 3 core areas of marketing, which I'm sure will come up as we talk about this today. But you want to build an engine, you got to have strategy, which is your fuel. You got to have planning, which is the parts. We assemble the engine. And you have to have leadership, right? You have to have a mechanic who is maintaining and optimizing that engine. If any of those things are out of alignment, it's not going to work, right? So that's kind of where I come from. Favorite flavor of ice cream. I don't eat a lot of dessert anymore. But when I do, it's ice cream, and anything with peanut butter in it is my jam. So there you go.
Okay, yeah. So cookies and cream blended with peanut butter is my favorite.
I didn't need to know that. That's not helpful to me.
Oh man, yeah. So like a cookies and cream milkshake with peanut butter, so good. So good. Anyways,
I'm one of those people. I love peanut butter. Like I eat it out of the jar with a spoon, almost every day. So anything with peanut butter is good with me.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you for that. A little bit of your background there, Tim. I'm so excited about today. We got several people watching live right now. So say hi in the comments. Even if you don't have a question, we'd like to hear from you. We're going to bring our first guest on screen to bring us the first marketing focused question today. And without further ado, we've got Paul, founder and CEO of NetV Pro, MSP in the Southeast and Midwest. Paul, say hi. Welcome to the stream.
Hi.
Good man. Good man. Paul joined us backstage before we went live, and so I already know a little bit. I think Tim is going to appreciate this question. Share with us what's on your mind, Paul, in about 60 to 90 seconds, and then we'll discuss it as a crew.
Sure, and I'll give you a little context. I worked for Phil Soren, who sold his business for $1 billion. Not billion. Yeah, it was almost $1 billion. That was his goal. And he said to me, if you want a solution, if you want to name your product. So that's what I want to do. I have a virtual desktop solution, VDI, and that's what I'm trying to come up with, is a name for my solution so we can market it. I threw a couple things in the chat: TurboDesk, SwiftSpace, EdgeDesk. You guys tell me where I should go with this.
Okay, love it, love it. So the too long don't read version of your question is, your MSP has a particular service offering, virtual desktops as a service. It's a productized service you have, and you're wanting to name it something to take it to market. And StreamYard's being weird. It's not letting me pull your comment. If you're on LinkedIn, you can see Paul's comment. He's got 3 suggestions: TurboDesk, SwiftSpace, EdgeDesk. So great question, Paul. I think there's a lot of things that we're going to be able to talk about here, but I'm going to drop you off stage. Feel free to continue to watch backstage, or if you want to hop over to LinkedIn and watch us there, might be better experience for you. But thanks for being here, Paul. We appreciate you. Okay. So many thoughts going through my mind right now, but Tim,
mine too,
as our resident expert for the day, talk to us what you think about Paul's request here.
Yes. Okay. So virtual desktop as a service he wants to brand it, which I love this, by the way. Okay. Because there's so many things that are out there from a product service standpoint that are commoditized. But we can make them our own by branding them, right? And repositioning them within our business. So I love the fact that he wants to brand this. My initial thoughts as we go through this is, hey, I've got these names. And on one hand, I don't think we want to overcomplicate this, right? And put more meaning to it than it needs. But I'm probably not the best person to ask about this, right? Because the clients are the ones that it really matters with and it resonates with, right? So what I think is a great name doesn't matter because I'm not one of Paul's ideal clients, right? And so this is a question that I would gear more towards my existing client base and let them know, hey, look, this is the situation. This is what we want to do. What resonates with you? What's going to make sense? Right? Because too often we come up with names thinking that they're great and we put it out there and people are like, we make them think, right? It makes them pause. And if they have to stop and think about what the hell we mean, we've lost them.
Hmm.
So those are my initial thoughts, but I'm sure as we bounce back and forth, I'll have more.
I love the point you make, Tim, about bringing in your customers as the control group for understanding which names or product line, nomenclature would resonate most with them. The first thing that comes to my mind, Paul, and I thought it when you first brought it up, even before we came on stage, is Shakespeare comes to mind. What's in a name? A rose by any other name would smell just as freaking sweet, right? Just that's exactly.
I think you added the frickin' there. I don't remember that being in the original.
No, it's definitely in Romeo and Juliet, frickin'. But okay. So the reason that comes to mind is, you think about all the different products or services you as a consumer take advantage of and the things they're called, right? Now, the value in a brand is something that's built over time. The value in a product name, I believe, is something that's built and validated over time. Like, will you say Nike and that conjures specific imagery in your mind? But if you go back in time before the apparel brand existed and they were like, I think I'm going to start an apparel business and call it Nike, like the rationale behind the brand, does it really speak to a lot of like what they do? Can you extrapolate from Nike just as a name that's what they do is footwear and apparel, or like the product name specifically? If you're going to call it something, you call it that thing consistently, and you need to call it that thing over and over and over again. So you become the one who's known for Turbo Desk, Swift Space, Edge Desk, athletic tennis shoes, right? And to some degree, I don't know, it super duper matters what you call it. Like Tim said, you could easily overcomplicate this or overthink it. If you are looking for meaningful feedback, talk to your customers. Who's using your virtual desktop solution today? And do like a poll with them. What do you like? What do they like? Pick it, stick it, go to market, run it down the field and sell. What do you think, Robert?
I think I love everything I've heard so far, except for the frickin'. Shakespeare. Come on, man. No, I think the only thing that I would add is, man, what you're really, if I understand the premise correctly, what you're hoping is to get a cookie. I want a cookie. I got to make it myself, and I have this one ingredient. And that ingredient is the actual product that my clients can, get value from and experience. And then the name is like the salt. As we're trying to think, like we've got the flour, maybe to stretch the metaphor a little too far, that's the product. Then the name is the salt. And then you've also have other ingredients, like how are you going to tell people about it? How is it priced? What's the actual value proposition? Like all that stuff is part of the cookie. And so one of the things that in my own failings with things like the MSP dojo, where, man, I spent a lot of the time on certain ingredients when I wasn't thinking about the whole recipe of how I was going to do the whole thing. And so I love the idea that you're thinking about the name, and just the thought to consider is, where does the name sit in the recipe? And does one over index, or how does one not over index on this one ingredient as part of the recipe? So
I love that thought, Robert. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that because I love that. It's the name is just one aspect of it, right? And so we've got to what's coming behind the name, how it's packaged, how it's positioned. those are equally as important as to whether this is going to be successful or not. And the other thing too is like, it's not going to be perfect, right? We at some point we have to gather enough information, but then based on that information, we have to make a choice and we have to move forward. And as he moves forward after making those choices, he's going to learn and he's going to be able to make adjustments and course corrections, right? To me, marketing is this constant process of testing, measuring, and learning, right? We come up with the thesis, we put it out there, we test it, we measure. Did it work? Did it not? What's the data telling us? And then we just wash, rinse, and repeat.
Agreed. The only other thing I would say on like what to name your product, or this service offering, Paul, another thing to consider is like, how will you measure whether it was a good idea or not, whatever you called it? You called it like a pile of crap versus TurboDesk, or you called it just VDI as a service versus Edge Desk or Swift or whatever. How will you know it's working? If you're measuring like, oh, we named it well, and you're measuring it, and it, we got new customers because of it. I don't know that you're going to be able to attribute new customer acquisition to the name of the service offering, right? But if you were going to try and use it as a lever to like infer what people are getting, start thinking about the value that it provides and let the name speak to the value. So virtual desktop as a service, I can imagine there's a lot of particular benefits that you are very familiar with. There's also some challenges with implementing it yourself. My own cloud background, I'm acutely aware of how difficult it can be to deliver virtual desktops as a service. So the value of partnering with NetV Pro for this service offering, what's it give the customer, right? And is there a version of the name that can infer that? And maybe you're doing that some with Swift Space, the idea of speed and creating spaces efficiently. Turbo, I don't know. And then all the desk stuff speaks to the product itself. There's some stuff to think about there, but ask your friends, ask your customers, ask ChatGPT. At the end of the day, do you feel proud to sell the thing you just named? And if you do, just go do it. Yeah. Okay, this is really great. Great question, Paul. Great scenario for us. John, we've got you on deck backstage, but I do not see your camera. Can you turn your camera on, wave at us, let us know you're alive before we bring you on stage for your question? If not, Tim and Robert and I will just riff a little bit. And we'll see. For those of you watching, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on Paul's scenario that he just described. In your MSP or IT services business, have you ever tried to productize a service or a solution? Have you gone through these exercises of naming? What were the challenges that you found? What did you learn along the way? Who helped you? What was helpful? What was your experience? Would love to hear from you. And if you have not asked a question yet, please do. Actually, I see John messaged me on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if he's here or not. I see you backstage, John. Oh, and you're off mute. Is your camera working? You can stay in the chat if it's working or not. If not, that's okay. Maybe we'll just drag you on, let you use your voice. In the meantime, Tim, talk to me about this idea of branding while we wait for John to figure out his camera. This idea, like, what have you seen in the MSP space? What are some missteps that you think IT business owners are making when it comes to establishing a brand and things they should be thinking about or not thinking about?
That's a loaded question. The first thing I would say about brand is we need consistency, right? With marketing and brand, you need consistency over time. That is how we're going to build brand. I am of the opinion, though, that branding should be a byproduct of our marketing. Okay. And here's why. Like, I haven't talked to an MSP yet that has an unlimited marketing budget that they can just light marketing dollars on fire. Because of that, when we spend money on marketing, we want to make sure that it's going to areas where we are going to get a return on our investment. And I think when you put your message out there with marketing, branding is going to be a natural byproduct of that, right? But what helps build our brand through our marketing is our message. How are we talking about ourselves? How are we positioning ourselves? And are we doing that consistently? Right? Because you talked about Nike before, right? Nike, when they came out with their slogan, just do it, like they repeated it over and over and over again. If they had just said, just do it, and then the next time, around, they were talking about, you got this. And the next time they had another message, that brand isn't going to, it's not going to gain traction because there's this different message each and every time. So we've got to settle on what that message is going to be. And then we need to repeat it over and over and over again. That's what's going to build that brand. Right.
What comes to mind, and I think Ron agrees with you, focus, consistent actions over time, they pay off.
Yeah.
Also, we see you, Ron. We're glad you're here. If you're able to hop backstage, we'd love to have you join us on screen, Ron. And John, I understand that your camera's not working. We're going to drag you on screen anyway and let you vocalize your question here in a second. But just to transition off of this branding conversation, once upon a time, I ran a small theater company, okay? And it was volunteer only, so we didn't have full-time employees or anything. And a lot of the marketing initiatives to drive people to show up to our productions was the volunteers all kind of helped out with social media and whatnot. I would organize these production meetings and we would talk about the best way to promote. And one thing that some people were concerned that maybe we were posting too much. We were posting content on social media, promoting these theatrical events. And the concern was we're oversaturating our audience and they're going to get tired of hearing from us and seeing our content. And so we were I was getting encouraged by people on my team to limit or minimize the amount of content we were putting out. And I was like, is that true though? And I struggled with that. I went to a buddy of mine who was leading marketing at a technology company, and I shared this with him, and he said something very similar to what you said, Tim. Repeated messages are the ones that are heard. Repeated messages are the ones that are heard. And then he went on to say, he's like, by the way, if someone was not going to show up to one of your shows because you were posting too much, I can tell you, I promise you, they already were never going to come. They were not your audience. Here's the truth you need to understand. Your actual audience does not hear from you enough. They do not see you enough. So that repeated consistency of the messaging faithfully over time, to your point, Ron, consistent actions over time, that's where you see the payoff in the initiative and where your brand starts to become this malleable, tangible, sticky thing that stays with the prospect. And correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, is that not the point of marketing? To stay with the prospect, to earn your spot here in their mind share, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we think about it, I don't know what the stat is now, but what's the average attention span? It is so low. I mean, especially with the advent of short form video and, Reels and TikTok and YouTube Shorts, people are just one video after another. Our attention spans are so short. And because of that, we have to get our message out there over and over and over again. Right. And to me, the definition of marketing is getting someone who has a need or a problem you can solve to know, like, and trust you.
That's right.
That's it. So everything that we're doing is helping get in front of people that we know we can serve and get them to know, like, and trust us. That's it.
Right.
And to do that, they have to see us over and over and over again. You don't build you don't get people to know, like, and trust you in one conversation.
Agreed. 100%. All right. For the sake of time, John, welcome. Yes. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right. Now, John, I know that we can hear you.
How's everybody? Robert, Tim, how you doing?
Good.
We're still kicking, man. I know that your camera's not working, but we wanted to give you the opportunity to come on. And I invited you here, John, to share with us. Do you have a question as relates to the IT services space related to marketing, business development, sales, something that's keeping you guys up at night at your company?
There's many things that keep me up at night all the time. And a lot of that has a lot to do about questioning myself and my energies that I put into marketing, if they're going to be return on investment.
Sure.
How am I going to see that? But listening to this session, I agree with all three of you, and I'll get a question out of this. But consistency is critical, and stay in touch. In other words, what you were referring to as, am I posting something too often? I think you need to post things as often without becoming, that they're removing you from their own profile, right? But you need to always be in front of them. And then, the not enough is very true. And also the memory bandwidth is, limited because so much comes at us every day.
That's right.
And we have so many responsibilities. So my challenge is that I call on MSPs, and I call on different size MSPs, mostly smaller, medium size. And since I've been in this industry and been in their shoes, I know that how busy they are, and I know that their primary objectives, and that's very customer centric, their own customer. And I'm trying to, be consistent without being annoying. And our marketing budget is small right now. We do have a couple big things coming out in the near future. But the question is, is it okay to continue to do these outreach campaigns? Is it okay? What's your thoughts on how annoying do they really get through email campaigns and calling campaigns and some posting?
John,
are we alienating our prospect list, or are we building that message and what's the term? That we are recognizable, that they
understand. Yes, John, I think you've got a lot of great stuff for us to chew on here. So I'm going to remove you from stage, and we're going to discuss this. Before we get too deep into this, and John, feel free to stay backstage and watch from there, or to go back over to LinkedIn and watch there. You might have a better experience on LinkedIn, but we appreciate your question. I think all three of us have opinions on this, but I also know that we have an MSP business owner who is backstage right now, who probably could answer John's question way better than any three of us. So, and I'm thinking about you, Ron, wink, wink. I see you back there. He's winking at me from backstage. You can't see it, but I can. I appreciate that. I will be thinking about this, Ron, because I want you to answer John's question for him, because you are his target audience, and you can probably speak to what vendors do wrong and what would be more meaningful. But Tim, first of all, I ran business development for a lot of vendors who worked with MSPs as well. So this question I've got strong opinions on as well. But Tim, take a crack at it. Yeah. How do you feel about what John's question is?
Man, this is another loaded question, and it comes up all the time, right? And I think in general, this is relevant for MSPs, relevant no matter what you're doing, right? There's a lot of businesses that are focused on cold outreach, warm outreach. What do I do? I am of the opinion, I think things have changed dramatically. I think the traditional cold email, cold calling, I mean, it's a numbers game, right? I think about myself when I try to measure this, and I don't know about you guys. I don't read a single damn cold email. Like they get deleted immediately, and I never return cold calls. So, I think it can work, but I think you do need to really understand your market. And so, for example, let's say you're working a small list, right? Say there's 250 people on there. That is not a list that I would recommend cold calling and cold emailing, because you're going to burn through that list so fast. And if you just continue to bang on them, I think you're going to alienate people. So I think there's probably better approaches there. If it's broader, you could do it, but I think there's other more effective ways to do it at this point. That doesn't mean that you're not cold emailing or cold calling. But to me, you're not doing it at scale, like just burning through things, if that makes sense.
I have some thoughts, but Robert hasn't said anything in a minute.
So I'd love to hear what Robert said.
I'm going to bite my tongue because I've got some big thoughts here, and Ron's doing backstage. He's doing this. I definitely want to hear the MSP's perspective on this. Robert, what's your advice to John?
Gosh, I mean, knowing nothing else about you, buddy, other than what you shared. My number one thing is just, are you fishing? What bait are you fishing with? So people say, like, I never read cold emails. I never respond to voicemails. But I know for a fact right now, if I get a voicemail that says, "Hey, Robert, we've never met, but I live in Franklin, Tennessee. I'm 26 years old, and boy, I would really love to just edit videos for 20 hours a day. Do you have an internship opening?" I would call him back in an instant, because that's exactly what I'm looking for right now. And so the question is just, with any sales or marketing, it's, does your audience care about what you have? Does it solve a need for them? And is that need in the top 3 things their business is trying to solve? You can't do that for everyone all the time, but if you can do it for enough prospects right now, and you can just somehow put that bait in front of them, they're going to bite at it. And if they're not biting at it, then the first thing I always start with is, how's your bait? What bait are you using? And if you're using the wrong bait, switch up your bait. And if your bait is, your bait is right, then you're not getting it in front of them the right way. That's for me, man, I'm on a metaphor train today, but that's what I'm looking for.
That's a good one. That's a good metaphor. Here, I'll tell you my thoughts, John. And for everybody's context, John works for a company called MSP Squared. They do outsourced help desk for MSPs and security services and a host of other things. And I've had conversations with their leadership before, and they're doing some interesting stuff in the space. But I can tell you from my perspective, John, the number one mistake vendors make when it comes to trying to recruit MSPs, the number one mistake is talking about their widget or their gadget ad nauseum, like MDR, XDR, SOC, NOC, PIM, insert the 3-letter acronym, the compliance framework. It's the thing, and they focus on the thing. This is the thing. And they don't, to Robert's point, focus on the bait. The thing, the hook is not the bait, by the way. Okay. The bait is what brings them. The hook is what catches them. Okay. So the value that you speak to, and this is what you need to focus on for MSP Squared. Mr. MSP, Miss MSP, this is how I make you money. This is how I save you time. This is how I make you stickier with your customers. If your target is the business leadership at that MSP, who's almost certainly going to be the ones who cut the check to work with you, John, It doesn't matter if it's a cold email, a cold call, or at a networking event or whatever. Those are just channels by which you can gain their attention. The bait that you use in those channels is absolutely everything. So once you find the channel where those MSPs are active, then what we said earlier and Tim said earlier, like repeat the message again and again and again. Let me help you build revenue this quarter. Let me save you time this quarter. Let me, figure out what's important to that IT business leader. And then you lean hard into that. You lean hard into that. And it's not outsource help desk for MSPs. It's giving time back to the owner, and it's building revenue and increasing profitability. And you're pulling on the levers that they care about. Now, that's all good and fine for me to say, but Ron, I'm bringing you on stage. And you probably have opinions, because I can imagine you never, Ron, you never get called by vendors. I'm sure you never get cold emails from vendors, right?
Yeah, it's never happened because I was at ScaleCon. That did not happen at ScaleCon, so that was actually pretty cool. And that was a big plus there. No, the vendors, you nailed it, Robert. I wrote down here before you said it, message. The message. What's the message? If the message was, you're next door to me, let's have lunch, and let's, and I have a way to save you 5 hours a day with some cool gadget. Yeah, I'm more inclined than some of the crap I could show you that we normally get from vendors. What made me jump on, because it popped up here, I was like, crap, I was a little late. I wanted to do it. I've been gone for the last couple of weeks, was branding, when you guys were talking about branding. And that's always been a really important part for me. And I just happened to look down at my shirt, and the one I threw on today, if you can see, it's got a logo over here. Mm-hmm. And if you look right here, it sort of looks like a flux capacitor. Okay. We all know what that is. It's not what it was supposed to be. It just ended up looking that way. And this is our current logo. This is the business I started 25 years ago. And I needed to look and smell like I knew what I was doing, but I did not know what I was doing. I just started a good company. So I went to an expert, Ambassador Resources, and a gentleman helped me create a logo, a brand, and a brochure with a message. Spoke about a wireless trend, things like that, because wireless was new in 2000. And that's what I ran around with. Every shirt had this logo. Always make sure my face was shaven, and I came with that brochure and a business card. And I look back now, I was talking business solutions with them because I had come from an industrial engineering background. So I spoke that way because it's about outcomes. What can we do for you at the end of this project? And little did I know that is now what I'm doing in a much more refined way. But we took the logo when my partner and I merged in 2019. This is really 3 capital E's connected to each other. And they stand for expert consulting, efficient implementation, and exceptional performance. And in 2001, that's what we came up with as a message to the people I was talking with. So when my partner and I merged in 2019, we kept the message. It's a great message. It's anchored in. We just revised the logo and made it look a little bit better and got you with a new name. So branding to me is huge in the message of what you're in, the consistency. I've heard that so many times today. And I might have popped it in there, just the consistent message. And then I think I even added there something has to be really structured, not just some message, but really, and I'm learning this through a gentleman uniquely that can message well like that consistently over time. So, that was my little tidbit to the branding and how important it really is. And I love that you mentioned the Nike brand, because they just stuck with that and just ran with it. And they never pivoted. They could have. I guarantee you there was an executive meeting somewhere. Are we really getting through with that stupid message? And then later on, they're like, yeah. So.
No, it's absolutely critical. The consistency of it becomes your identity. It becomes what you're known as, what you're known for. And to be known, as we discussed earlier, being one of the chief goals of marketing, right? Like if you are throwing out your shingle for the first time, I'm starting an MSP today, right?
Yes.
And I'm calling it Bubbly IT, okay? Whatever I'm calling it. Nobody knows me. I just started, right? So we invest in marketing, we invest in branding to be known, right? And if you just throw out a LinkedIn post with a logo and that's your definition of marketing, don't be shocked that nobody still knows you. Right? Okay, now we got just a few minutes left before we have to wrap up, because I promise you, Robert, we're not going to butt up against the dojo as closely as we have the last 2 episodes. So help me.
Thanks, buddy.
But Ron, before we drop you off, did you have any other like questions, observations, scenarios?
I have something to drop. Yeah, so I'm going to give you guys something. So what we're going to implement to be different, to message different, part of the marketing and the branding and the uniqueness. What I have found, especially meeting Robert, like, yeah, you guys, you know, I've only seen one of you on the screen in person, and you're way better in person, to be quite honest. So, and so, yeah, so engaging.
Compliment there.
Not sure how to take that, but okay.
Take it this way, right? That there's so many nuggets are gained having a conversation with you in person. And that's how these meetings are. So what I've been trying to do is come up with a way to bring myself to the, as the message in a unique way. So using SendSpark to use video messaging in a unique way with a unique thumbnail in an email that click on here and here's the message. Or I'm going to move to, because we're in this type of space, for my, call my top 100 clients or prospects that I really want to go and we're properly messaging to in 2026. I'm going to move and utilize like a video box type of tool. And so message in that way, which will still be me in a unique way with some cool tech. And then whatever is next, if I can get a drone, you can see I got a couple, I like to fly drones. If I could get some drones to fly up and message over an office space, our messaging, we just had to come up with something different. Email and cold calling. Yeah, I think you nailed it. Numbers game, do it a million times. You're going to get some hits. I am doing it now and have done some scaling, spending some money doing that, but it's a lot of money. A lot of goes into that. If we can maybe be, utilize today's message techniques a little differently than just email. I mean, we can still send a letter, send a million letters. You're going to get someone to respond, but we're just trying to pick the next great thing that really, and make it really, really unique in the technology space. Not so if it can layer in that way, then they may be able to use that in their business. And they say, wow, man, how can I use that solution in my own business? And then become business solution providers, right?
Yeah. So is there a question about that?
No, video box. I would say if anybody's using that type of messaging, I'm looking to do things of that nature in 2026. It's with layered in properly, the email, the call, the LinkedIn, comments, and working to message with prospects in that way. But I think we had to think the next thing. I have a billboard client in Philadelphia for the last 25 years. I told him in 2002 or 3, one day you'll have a giant TV up there, and through the internet, we're going to put ads on there. And he's like, that's ridiculous. You know how much that billboard, it costs $1 million to build the board. It's $5,000 to get a guy to scrape the message up on there. And then the guy comes back and pulls it down. It's going to be too costly. He's implementing these things left and right throughout Philadelphia. And now he can sell messaging, 8 seconds message over a period of time. So he wasn't thinking that was going to happen. And then I told him the next messaging is going to be the sky billboard, using drones and things of that nature to message. So that's what I mean. I'm not picking a particular thing. The video box, I have this on my list because I had him send me one. And when it messaged right to me, hey, Ron, this is Peter, a video box. I was like, oh, shit, this is right to me. I just feel, it's me. It's about me. And then he could message the way he did. And I went, this sounds like a good product.
I love it. So, I'm going to drop you off stage because we got one more question in the hopper before we wrap up. But this is really great. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Ron.
Ron, there was a key word you said when you're talking about video box that I think a lot of IT business leaders, when they're thinking about marketing, need to latch onto. You said feel. You got that video box thing and you felt something. I think if I were to describe the majority of MSP marketing content that I see out there, I would describe it as soulless. I feel nothing when I engage with it, which makes me start to resent seeing it. Um, and so whatever tactic you might use, video box, an email, a phone call, a digital ad, a blog post, a live stream, or whatever, you must seek to elicit a feeling from your prospect, because that will be the thing they engage with. Why do you think so much content on social media is rage bait? It performs so well because it conjures and stirs emotion. I'm not suggesting you start shit posting. Maybe I am. I don't know. I'm just saying, if I had to choose between feeling something from your marketing or your marketing being forgettable, I don't know, Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, no, there has to be feeling and emotion in there, right? But the other thing that both you and Robert touched on this a little bit with John, like people aren't buying the thing. They're buying what the thing can do for them, right? They're buying a solution to the problem, and they're buying an outcome or a result. That's what they care about, right? And so whether we're selling IT or we're selling something else, that messaging needs to focus on that, right? Robert has a specific problem with video editing. If somebody messages him with that, it's grabbing his attention and his interest, right? But that's also a key point, that we can't create demand. The demand is there or it's not. And that's one of the things that's tough with the MSP space, is you can't create the demand, right? And depending on who you listen to, like 3%-ish of the market is looking to buy at any given point in time, right? So 3% of those people have the demand. What do you do with the rest of them? That's where what we've been talking about with staying in front of people, getting out there consistently, putting your message out there, so that when the demand is there, you're in the top 1, 2, 3 people they think of. Because if you're not in the top, you're not getting an opportunity to win that business.
It's a good point when you talk about, like, we cannot create the demand. It is either there or it is not. It is the work of the marketer, the work of the business developer to earn mind share with the folks where the demand is. So yours is the number that rings, yours is the inbox that gets the email. And this idea of being able to feel something from your marketing is a good segue into our final observation or question from Max here. Can you add your thought of the evolution of AI that everyone can use in the huge river of marketing that no one seems to respond to now? Okay, very interesting. Robert, what are your thoughts? Robert, what are your thoughts on AI in marketing right now? Because I'm sure you're seeing the same Facebook ads that I am.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. We're still going to see. I think that one of the things that I can tell you is happening is that anytime attention is short and information is abundant, the easiest thing to do is just ignore. And so one of the things that AI has done has made it so much easier to get into the inbox, to get into the voicemails, to just deluge people with more and more information, which means the easiest thing to do is just ignore it. That's why I know for a fact, I just turned on the button on my new iPhone update that automatically screens every call. And I have like hundreds of sellers that I'm talking with right now that cold call as a huge part of their ability to create revenue for their family. And so those two things now are the reality that we're dealing with, is that I have people who are trying to make those cold calls, and Apple created a feature. They spent money creating a feature to turn off auto dialers. And so the good news is that means that to some extent, the phone is still a tool for doing something, for getting that attention, for dangling that bait in front of someone. The nature of it has changed. And so I think that's what we're really trying to just navigate this through, is that There are still people that need a new MSP. That somewhere in the country today, your perfect prospect is signing a new MSA. And the only reason it's not yours is because they don't know who you are. And that's the problem we're trying to solve with sales and marketing.
Yeah.
And so the question is, yeah, we could use tools and what. That's not really I don't think it's really the heart of it. The heart of it is, again, back to this idea of like, are you fishing with the right bait? And are you putting that bait in front of your prospect? And if you are, then it should be working. And if not, then one of those two things might be wrong. So that's my thought on it.
It's a great thought. I'm going to say one more thing. And then, Tim, I want you to chime in on your thoughts on this. And then that's all we have time for today before we come back maybe next week. So for those of you who don't know, the MSP water cooler, most Wednesdays at noon Eastern. So we'll probably see you next week, if not the week after. Although we're getting dangerously close to the holidays soon. So my thoughts here on AI as it relates to marketing. Okay. So low effort, low cost, low value. Okay. And people know this. They know this, right? Anyone can go to VO or Sora right now and crank out something that might gain you a moment of attention. But because all of everybody can do this, and so many are, the quality of marketing is taking a hit, I think. But I'll tell you something. I recently saw, I'm not ashamed to say, a video on TikTok, and it was like, it was the cast of the Lord of the Rings in a music video, okay? And this like heavy metal, hard rock, like montage that was all completely AI generated. The music was, the visuals all were, and it was like a 4-minute song, a 4-minute video. And if you've ever created any video content with AI, you know that the best you can get at a shot is like a couple seconds, 20 seconds, maybe here or there. So, and it was actually really well done. But what occurred to me, having dabbled with AI video content myself, is the level of effort that was required to create that thing was actually really high. Like for an individual to go from nothing to a 4-minute clip like that, they didn't just chuck it into a computer and it spat that out. Tremendous time was spent in post, editing it and compiling it. And the effort showed, and it was almost more the effort that made me feel something than the content itself. It's like these people worked hard to earn my attention, and that gained more attention from me. But if I'm just scrolling, and I've seen many of my peers and colleagues in the space who are and listen, we should all experiment with it and figure out what's working, what's not. I'm not trying to knock everyone who's playing around with AI right now, but I will tell you this. I'm seeing it in my feed constantly. And to Robert's point earlier, it is so easy just to be like, ugh, or cringe, or low effort, low value. It didn't cost them anything to get this in front of me, so it cost me nothing to ignore it, right? So just think of that. What's like the marginal cost versus the marginal benefit. What did it cost you to get this in front of your customer? And is that going to return some kind of benefit that they will appreciate? Tim, AI and marketing, give us like your 2-minute treatise on it, and then we're going to wrap up.
Yeah, a few things. One, the quality of the output with AI is dependent on the quality of the input. So if you're not putting good stuff in, you're getting bad stuff out. The other thing is AI, yes, we can use it to spit out, as Robert touched on, all kinds of content, right? But if all we're doing is, if we have a broken marketing engine, right, all AI is doing is helping us put out more bad stuff, which is not going to yield any results, right? So we can use AI to enable our marketing, but we have to have a functioning marketing engine for it to do that. If we don't have a functioning marketing engine, it's not going to work, right? It's like putting a supercharger onto an engine that's not working. It's not going to do anything. So we've got to get the fundamentals in place. We have to have that engine operating efficiently. And then we can look at how can AI enable us to do this even better and more effectively. But it's a tool, right? It's not the strategy. We can't just be putting stuff in and just taking the output and putting it out there. We've got to look at it from a strategic lens and question it, frankly, right? Not everything that comes out of AI is 100% accurate, right? We need to question what it tells us.
Agreed.
Right?
All right, folks, we need to wrap up so Robert can go off to the dojo here in 5 minutes. So I hope that if you're watching this back either live or in the future on YouTube or LinkedIn, that you got some value out of this. The last thing I'll leave you with is something that Roberts has said in the last 2 MSP water coolers. Do something always. I'm stealing that from you, Robert, because if you're walking away from this section and you want one thing tangible that you can go do right now, pick a thing and do it again and do it consistently. So many IT providers struggle with marketing. At the end of the day, what I see is nothing being done. So do something, do it always. I appreciate you, Robert, for being here. I appreciate you, Tim, as being our special guest. We'll catch you all the next water cooler. Be well.
Thanks, Kofi.
Talk to you soon.